Bear with me for this one and the next two, or next one, um, as I've never actually played the board version of this game, Galaxy Trucker, my number 27. I have the app and I love it, and it plays essentially like the board game. Um, but the having it on the table is, I have been told, and I agree, sounds a lot more fun. So what this game is, you are building a spaceship and then going on an adventure trying to survive. You build your spaceship. This is a real-time game, so you are building along with the other players your spaceship. You have a player board which shows you where everything can go on your ship. And when somebody says go, then you can only use one hand. You reach it over to the pile, and you look and you say, okay, do I want this piece on my ship? And then you have to connect it legally to your ship. If you don't, at the end of the once everybody's ship's built, the other players will get to inspect your ship and see if it's legal, and if it's not, the pieces will fall off your ship. And yeah, so what kind of pieces go on the ship? Well, there are, I mean, you start with two crew, and you can get the crewmen out. There's the two crew in the one piece that you start with. The pieces connect. There are three types of connectors, so you have to make sure the connectors connect right. There's a single connector, which is like that. There's a double connector, which is like that. It looks like two pipes as opposed to one. And then there's the universal connector, which will fit each type. So you can connect the universal to, the only one type you can't do is a 2 to a 1, or a 1 to a 2, like that. That's not a legal connection. So you also can't place pieces, so there's no connector. So you're doing this in real time, trying to build. So the different types of pieces that go on your ship are, there's crew quarters, and you're going to want a lot of crew, because as you're going on the actual mission, you're going to need crew. You may encounter spaceships, abandoned spaceships, or pirates that steal some of your crew, or abandoned space station, which you can send the crew over. So you will lose some crew along the way. So having a lot of crew is good. There are also brown and purple crew quarters, and then you would get alien crew of that type. The brown crew help your engines perform better. The purple help your weapons perform better. So let's go into the weapons. The weapons, there are lasers, and having a lot of lasers is good because they will deflect pirates or large asteroids that you may encounter. Having a laser will help your ship stay intact. Likewise with engines. The engines are brown. They have to be pointed back out the rear of the ship when you align them, and you can't have a piece of the ship behind the engine. That's the engine rule as you're building. There is cargo holds. Well, let me go back to the engine, because in the rule book they say having a lot of engines is good, because being first to a location is helpful. Being fast enough to faster than the other players is helpful. So having a lot of engines is good. Cargo. You're going to want to pick up stuff along the way and sell it, because you win by having the most most money at the end of the game. And you play 3 rounds of this, and you get 3 different boards to build your ships on. And I'm sure my pals Mike and Justin will correct me on any mistakes I make. So, because I know Mike has this and all the expansions. Um, so you want a lot of cargo space. There are some hazardous cargo containers. And another thing, as you build, you don't want exposed connectors on the outside, because that means they're easier. It's easier for your ship to be destroyed if it should get hit with a small asteroid to a open connector. So that's the cargo, crew quarters, universal junction boxes. I'm sure they have a name. These are just connectors that essentially have more universal connectors, and they're help you build your ship. Make it a little easier to connect pieces and parts. Shields. There may be when you play a shield, it protects, if you have batteries, and I'm about to get to that, two sides of your ship. So if you can manage to get two of them on your ship, then you would potentially be able to bounce asteroids or pirate attack with your shields. And finally, I feel like I'm forgetting a piece, but I don't, maybe not. The batteries. So some of the equipment that you put on your ship is going to require batteries to work. So the shield will require a battery. The engines come in two types. There is a double engine, which requires, it's got the green on it, so that lets you know it needs a battery. Don't be confused by this, because that's just the green player color. Requires a battery. There are the double cannons, which require, I'm not going to find one because I'm looking for it. Well, there's a double cannon, and this cannon would not require a battery, but the double cannon would, and it counts as double when you tally up the amount of shots you have for pirates. And that's it. So you build your ship, and then you go on the adventure, and there's a deck of cards. You got to do 8 of them as you go on your adventure. So the first one would be open space, and the next one is a planet, and the planet is going to have resources on it. And the first player that gets there, because their ship was faster or they were done building first, would have the choice of which planet to land on. So once somebody lands there, and you have a second set of tokens to say, okay, I'm going to land here, and take those. And you would fill up your cargo with the cubes of the appropriate colors, and continue on. And then you could encounter an abandoned space station, and it will cost you 6 crew, but you'll get 2 red out of it. Okay, if you have the 6 crew. And then open space, and then a meteor swarm. Oh, so here's where it gets interesting to see if your ship survives or not. So the meteors are going to come in, and then you're going to randomly roll to see where they come in. So you'd roll the 2d6, and it's a huge one first, so it'd come in on a 10 and would miss the ship altogether. And then a little one comes in, and it would go to the 6. So it's coming in on the 6, and say I had a laser there, well, I could shoot it. Or actually, the little ones aren't bad. As long as you don't have an exposed connector, the little one is going to bounce off your ship. So if I had this here on the 6, it would bounce off. It would bounce off and not hurt my ship. But if I had an exposed connector, well, let's say this, because then it would be connected to something else. If I had this exposed, it would take this section out, and then anything connected, if it wasn't connected anywhere else, would fall off my ship. There's an abandoned ship where you could lose 2 crew, but you'd get 3 money. There are smugglers that if you don't have 4 weapon on your ship, you're going to lose 2 cargo. Stuff like that. So So you do that for 3 rounds, and the real fun is the building of the ship, and um, and watching your ship get blown apart by the stuff that happens. Um, so I think I skipped this part. As you're building the ship, say you find a piece. Nope, you see a piece and you don't want it. Well, you can put it back, but you got to put it back face up, and somebody else could grab it. So that's the how it works. It's a little different in the app, but yeah. So that's 27 Galaxy Trucker. Stay tuned for 26 for the kids.